So some of the additions to the new WPATH standards of care include adding non-binary, intersex, and eunuch. Eunuch? Okay. Alright, welcome back to the channel today, everyone. So the long-anticipated update to WPATH guidance was released on Friday, and oh boy, is it interesting. But before I get into it, our sponsor today is the Tuttle Twins books. In a world where teachers seem to prioritize teaching wokeness to your kids, you have to take your child's education into your own hands. The Tuttle Twins have books that teach them history, sound money, personal freedoms, and more. Use the link in the description and get your books today. Also, if you are in Atlanta, Georgia, or Richmond, Virginia, I am doing events in both cities next week for an organization called No Left Turn in Education, and I would love to see you there. But now on to WPATH. Now, if you've followed me for a little while, you know that WPATH stands for the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. They make recommendations on how to treat trans people for doctors. And so they just released their Standards of Care Volume 8 on Friday, and I gotta say, it is a long document with a lot of information. So if you want me to do a follow-up video, just let me know in the comments, because there are a lot of different aspects that we could look at in terms of this. But specifically for this, I want to focus on some of the stuff for adolescence that they talk about. And the first thing that really struck me when reading it was the elimination of age-based guidelines. It even suggests that there might be instances where it might be appropriate to give somebody under 16 cross-sex hormones. See, it says puberty blockers are fully reversible, but due to potential bone mass issues, it might be better off to come off them early. It also pretty much opens the door to have surgeries much younger as well, because it continuously talks about surgical procedures in the adolescence section, and the way that they define adolescence is from the start of puberty through 18 years old. And as we've discussed in previous videos, it gives free rein to hospitals like the Boston Children's Hospital to prey on these kids. It also mentions to advise children on the issues blockers may have on brain development as well as fertility issues. As I mentioned in my video about Marcy Bowers, they acknowledge that blockers will stunt the growth of the penis and make bottom surgery much more risky and more likely to come with complications. I will say, one of the things that really struck me through reading the whole document, because what they did is they added a lot of studies into this, and you can tell they kind of handpicked some of those studies and which ones say the information that they want. But then they also say the number of times they say we don't have enough data, or it points out, you know, the flaws in certain studies. It does this a lot, and it's very noticeable. It's like they're making a determination when there's not enough data, and so they use the data that they have, but they also know that the data is flawed, but still they're giving the same recommendations. Doesn't make sense. For example, when addressing the issue Marcy Bowers pointed out in adults who previously took blockers, it says that 84% of those who had surgery could orgasm, but the study was unclear as to how long a child went through puberty before taking puberty blockers, and so the amount of time on puberty blockers was never assessed, and so that 84% number could be, just like Marcy Bowers said, 100% if you actually block puberty starting at the beginning of puberty. Because if you remember, Marcy said,
or adolescent who was truly blocked at Tanner stage 2 has never experienced orgasm. I mean, it's really about zero.
Of the cases she saw where puberty was fully blocked, 100% of them were unable to achieve orgasm as an adult. That's problematic. And these guidelines don't seem to address her concern, even though she is the president-elect of WPATH. I don't get it. And then in other sections, it even admits that studies used for deeming puberty blockers completely safe are based off precocious puberty, and they don't have data for how safe it is in kids during key developmental years. Every parent that is deciding to put their kids on puberty blocker needs to know that they are being prescribed off-label. And this document says that. It mentions that that puberty blockers are being used off-label because that's not what they were originally intended for. And these parents need to know the side effects and that their children are basically being experimented on if they go on puberty blockers, because the data is not there to show that they are completely safe and fully reversible, even like they're trying to say in this document. I mean, if you don't have the data, you don't go forward and recommend to every gender nonconforming kid that they get put on puberty blockers. You scale it back. You know, you make it more restrictive and not more accessible. You do the studies. You don't lie and assure people that they are fully reversible when you really don't even know. I really think that there's going to be a lot of lawsuits about this in the future, and I think WPATH just gave anyone who feels manipulated the ammo to sue them. Because we know that doctors are just going to sit back and go, well, I'm just following guidance, which I don't believe is an excuse for, moral ineptitude, because the data's out there. If you're a doctor and you're prescribing this stuff, maybe do the due diligence and don't. Wait till more information comes out. Say you're not going to prescribe this stuff. I mean, there was a doctor who had a TikTok recently that said puberty blockers are not fully reversible. She said it could basically cause infertility, and it can harm you in the long run.
Hi, this is Dr. Christie. I just want to give a brief public service announcement. I feel a responsibility as a physician to be honest about puberty blockers and hormonal therapy in teenagers. This can lead to infertility, and I don't know if that's really well known. That means that you would never be able to have your own children. It really is important to go through puberty at your normal sex, as your normal sex, and at your normal rate, and not arrest that process. Give your body time to complete the process before you start changing things that could have long-term implications. So I want you to be smart about it. That's what I'm here for. Help you out.
This is another doctor stepping outside of the accepted narrative, being brave, and raising concerns about what these drugs can actually do. We need more doctors out here discussing this type of stuff, because we know that there are a lot out there. I've heard the stories. I've talked to people. I've talked to doctors. There's a lot of them who just don't feel that they can actually come out against this in full force. But the more that do, the more weight we have behind it, the more we can actually fight this issue. And again, we're only talking about children. Adults can do what they want with their body. But when you're pushing something as fully reversible, and yet you don't even know, and in fact, you even mention items that show that they're probably not fully reversible. You mentioned, cognitive ability, you mentioned bone density issues, you mentioned fertility issues, and then you have the gall to still say in that same report that they are fully reversible. Shame on you. That is a complete lie. You're hoping that people don't read the full document and don't realize that you're lying to them. They are not fully reversible. You admitted so much in this document. I would retract it tomorrow and go back and say, we made a mistake. We need to change our guidance. Anyway, there's a lot more that I have issues with. The document is going to be linked in the description, so you can go read it yourself and see what I'm talking about. And just go through it, read it. It's about 250 pages, where the old WPATH was only about 150 pages. But it's worth the read. You don't have to read every chapter. You don't have to go dive deep into it. But there are some key sections like Chapter 6 and Chapter 12 that talk a lot about adolescence and the surgery aspect and the hormonal aspects of how they prescribe some of this stuff and what they can do to fertility, to other health factors as well. Those are the two keys that I would say go look at if you're interested. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Click that like and subscribe button. Make sure you go support our sponsors and follow me across all social media platforms, and I will see you next time.